text file. In fact, you can still use a text file. It's called a host file. Let me show you. So let's say that I have a machine that's not on DNS, but I want to be able to find it, or the IP address is wrong, simply because we use a internal DNS entry. So it's like Storman.com, but because I'm using the Storman.com with the DNS internally, it actually goes to the internal website. But I want to see the external website. So what I can do is I can type in the IP address. So if you go into Windows and then System32, then you go into Drivers, and you go into etc, which is the initials of the people who came up with this idea. You have a file called hosts. And it has to be called host. Can't be called host.txt. Can't be called host.anything. It has to be called hosts. And it's just a flat text file where you put in the IP address and the name. We're going to open it up with Notepad, Notice Padus. And let me show you this. So if I go into my command prompt and I say ping www.lifehacker.com, which is a great website, by the way, it comes up with the address of 98.142.105.33. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an ipconfig/flush DNS to get rid of that pesky TTL. So I've cleared out my DNS. It wasn't in there before, but then when I did it, it cached it based on the TTL. We talked about this last session, and now I don't remember it anymore. But watch this. I'm going to go in, and I'm going to make a new entry. I'm going to say 127.0.0.1. www.lifehacker.com, and you got to remember to save it. So I'll do a file, and I'll do a save. And then we want to verify that I don't have two host file. Because one of the things is by default it doesn't show file extensions. And what you want to do is you want to have it set so it does show file extensions. So we'll go through and I will say don't hide file extensions. Otherwise, if I make this host file with a notepad, it's going to have the extension of .txt. And I'm going to say show hidden files. I like doing that. Don't hide protected operating systems. Are you sure? Yes. That's fine. So I like having all my stuff in there. So now it's called host. We know it's called host. And I'm going to fire this bad boy off, and I'm going to say ping lifehacker.com. And now it says 127.0.0.1. Here is the big gotcha with using host files. Here's the big gotcha. It is loaded into your DNS cache, and it stays there. In fact, every time you do a command that uses DNS, it will reload the host file. There are utilities out there. Let's say you have sites that are not appropriate for business. Or there's virus sites, and there's this and there's that, and you want to make sure that you'll never communicate with these machines. What you do is you go in your host file, put in the fully qualified domain name of whatever it is, like www.virusesareus.com, hook it to 127.0.0.1, and if your browser, for some weird reason, tries to talk to that website, it goes to yourself. There are a list of them. We had an instructor who was doing a presentation to about 300 people, and he downloaded an antivirus program, anti-malware, anti-spamware, and it populated his host file with all sorts of stuff to keep it from going out there, a little family-friendly stuff. And he was doing a demo, and he brought up his host file, and whoop, there was a list. Kind of embarrassing. So if you're going to do this, to get rid of websites that people are going to that they shouldn't go to, don't tell them where it is. But also make sure you have written approval and kind of a list of the sites so that when, how come you're sending me to this website? Why is it in my machine? You can explain why, and you have written approval that says it. So host files allow you to do that. But remember, this takes precedence. The problem with host files is it's local on every machine. There is no such a thing as a centrally configured host file. There isn't. You would have to use like a group policy, or you'd have to go with a little thumb drive and copy it to everybody, or use a logon script that says when you log on, we're going to copy this stuff in here. But also realize a lot of antivirus programs will say, ooh, somebody tried to change your host file. We're going to stop that. I think Norton does that. McAfee does that. So modifications of the host file, it may be a little bit harder than you think, simply because of the antivirus. So it is a good thing to do.